It's great for you to join us and a pleasure to have you here with us in Cardiff. How does it feel to be back? The first time, I believe, you've been back.
Yeah, it is the first time and it's pretty weird, to be honest, sort of walking out the tunnel and not much has changed. So, from what I remember anyway, and yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it, when you come into a stadium or somewhere you've not been for a while, but something significant happened there. Sort of the memories flood back and instantly thinking about, you know, when we came here a couple of days before, when it was like this, empty, to have a look at surroundings and look at the pitch and everything, and then imagining it, you know, when we did turn up on match day and fans were in, the roof was closed and it was kind of, you know, the air had been sucked out and there was just a constant drone of noise. So, yeah, some great memories flooding back instantly as I walked out. Yeah.
Just a handful of months on from making your professional debut for Blues, you're here in a playoff final in a, I think it was a £40 million game as it was at the time then. How on earth were you coping?
Do you know what? I never got nervous once, and that's the God's honest truth. I think, you know, I'd played in the first leg of the playoff semi-final against Millwall at home and in the draw, and then we went to the Den and I was on the bench, and I just felt coming here, and as you say, the magnitude of the game and me sort of in my first season and only played, you know, probably was it 15, 16 games up to that point, that Steve Bruce would potentially, you know, leave me out and kind of just have me here as part of the squad. So on the morning when I first got the nod that I was going to be on the bench, I was just excited, I had loads of adrenaline, so there was absolutely no nerves, and that carried on into the game when I came on, and obviously for the penalties. So, and I tell people, you know, all the time and over the years, they sort of can't believe that I had any nerves at all, and I was as cool as I was. But yeah, I think it was just kind of adrenaline really more than anything, and being involved in the game.
Because they're quite comfortable with these seats, but I guess they're quite nice to get out of when your time comes and the name's called.
Well, the good thing as well, obviously we were warming up that side to the left, so all the Blues fans were that end, so I just wanted to warm up constantly. You know, my mum and dad and my sister and everyone, my family were literally just sat up to the left here, that's where all the families were. So even warming up, you know, I was right in front of them, and it was just, I remember warming up behind the goal a little bit as well, and it was just a sea of blue. So, and again, the noise and the energy, you know, I didn't want to sit down, you know, it was kind of, I was just itching just to be out there and doing something. So pretty much for the hour before I came on, I was constantly warming up.
Did Steve Bruce give you any inkling, or the team any inkling, of how he was maybe looking to use his free changes throughout the afternoon? Obviously there was always that element, the extra time could come into it, obviously, as of course it did. Yeah,
no, I think with Stevie, kind of never give anyone kind of any inkling to what the team would be, the starting 11 especially, and then the bench. And as I mentioned, I wasn't sure whether, you know, my age would play a part and he'd want to go with more experience. He had the likes of Curtis Woodhouse and Danny Sonner and you know, players who could have potentially been on the bench in front of me. And so when you looked at the subs, I think Stan was always going to come on in the game. It was kind of the sub that Steve used to use quite a lot for Tommy Mooney, so I think that one was probably foreseen. And after that, then you know, Olivia Tebbely played centre midfield to start the game, and I always thought, you know, would Tebbs last the pace? And as it, you know, worked out, it was a centre half in Steve Vickers who got cramp and had to come off, meaning Tebbs moved back. But even then, there was me and there was Damien Johnson on the bench. So again, I didn't know. You know, Johnsy was probably a couple of years older than me. Would, you know, Steve sort of look at that and say, maybe put him on in front, but he trusted me, as he had done all for that second half of the season. And I'll always be very grateful for Brucey for that.
He's not 19 until December. He didn't make his debut until the end of January. An England youth player who finds himself on Welsh turf here in...
Here we are, right in the thick of it. You entered the field after 71 minutes for the unfortunate Steve Vickers. The roof was closed on that day. That must have been an entirely new experience for you and the team. How did that sort of play on anyone's minds, or how are you feeling with that?
I think sort of speaking to everybody, players, supporters, everyone who was here that day, it kind of played into the atmosphere. as I said, it was kind of a drone of noise. Sort of the air was sucked out, so it was just a real very good atmosphere, a cauldron of noise, if you want to say, and yeah, it just added to the game and added to the tension. But for us as players, and me sitting on the bench for 70 odd minutes, just looking around and taking it in, and then actually entering the pitch and getting involved was, it just added to the spice really of the day.
Of course, you mentioned it goes into extra time, courtesy of some pretty decent goalkeeping at either end and a pretty impressive Jeff Kenner interception right at the end where you're coming in just behind. You and Roberts wasn't your man, so nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that.
And then of course the Welshman in Cardiff, it was going to happen.
Yeah.
He puts them ahead, and then Horse gets Blues level. You're one of the first to mob him after the goal, and you've talked about the lift and the noise that must have created from the Blue Noses that travelled down. Yeah,
because at the moment that you and Roberts scored, you could just feel that, here we go again.
It's Alex Notman for Norwich. It's Notman's cross. It's Roberts!
All them years, as I say, a playoff heartbreak, and the year before losing in the Worthington Cup the way we did. So for Jeff then to equalise, was it 7 or 8 minutes later, I think was huge for us, huge for the fans, and kind of, okay, we've come back, we're back on level terms, and we had the momentum. And I think second half of extra time, we predominantly were in their half, and I remember Jono having a few chances hitting the post, and I did really fancy us to score late on. I thought we were going to get a late goal here and win it, but as I say, when the final whistle went in extra time, I was still supremely confident we were going to win. Again, I can't tell you why, it was just that vibe I got.
When did penalties maybe start creeping into your mind? Obviously, when you're watching as a fan or you're watching on the television, obviously you can see the clock in the top corner, everything's sort of ticking along, it's heading that direction. But on the field, obviously you've got a job to try and get it in at that end, but also as a team, keep it out the other. So when does it start playing on your mind as such?
I think because we had the momentum and ascendancy towards the end of extra time, I just remember thinking, let's just keep going, let's be relentless, let's try and get this goal. And again, I did fancy us to score, and I thought the pressure would play off. And so when that final whistle went, it was kind of then a little bit disappointed that we hadn't got the goal. And then your mind sort of changes then to penalties. And from that point on then, I think it's kind of right, you get in the huddle and you get your drinks and recovery, and a few of the lads getting stretches and trying to keep cramp away. And it's kind of then who wants a penalty. And I remember Mark Bowen going round and asking people, and coming to me and basically saying 4 or 5. I genuinely wasn't bothered which one I went, and I knew that sort of he was going to be out of me and Hughesy, and I still play him up to this day, that I knew he'd go 5 because that was he loved the pressure penalty, and he'd come back to me then. Mark Bowen just went 4, and that was it. The stage was set.
Can you bear it?
How's it feel to be back in this sort of
It's
area?
just, I think it's been surreal the whole sort of day that I've been here, and so even doing the walk, and you just picture back to the day and kind of get a sense of what the atmosphere was. And sort of when you walk in, I remember the gasp from the Blues fans, thinking, what the hell is Steve Bruce thinking, putting Darren Carter on the 4th penalty? And even years later, fans saying exactly the same thing to me, saying, I was thinking, what is he doing?
A Carrow Road man, a canary, Darryl Such has rolled it wide, and it's fading away for Norwich.
Well, Ryan and Such miss for Norwich, but when in the shootout, are you starting to thinking that penalty number 4 is not only a pressure penalty, but a prized kick perhaps?
I thought about it once, and again, people look at me weirdly when I say this, that as soon as they missed, and obviously we were up in the penalty shootout, and I can't remember who scored actually in front of me. I always forget that, but I know Nico got a hand to it and he went this side, and I was thinking to myself that I wanted them to score because I wanted to take a penalty. And again, that wasn't for any kind of ego reason or wanting to score the winner. I just felt supremely confident. I wanted to take a penalty. And I think, again, sort of probably my youth got the best of me. I think I asked the referee just to double check, is this the winning penalty if it goes in? And I remember him giving me a little bit of a look, well, yep, it is. So yeah, because I didn't want to sort of run off and celebrate and it not be. But yeah, again, I remember walking up and the old cliches that the goal looked smaller, and it did. You know, Rob Green in nets was sort of looking a little bit bigger, a little bit more imposing, but it just didn't waver my confidence. I was supremely confident I was going to score, and I wish I could have bottled that up and sort of used that, you know, for the rest of my career, because I can't think of another time really where I've been that confident over certainly a penalty, but yeah, in my football career in general.
Darren Carter for the Premiership. The Premiership!
And of course, just further up the field, more to the centre, obviously there was the trophy presentation where you got your medal, and obviously Blues really kicked off the celebrations and then a sort of parade around the field. What are your memories of that sort of period, or is that just a blur as well? I guess it's such a cacophony of noise from the Blue Noses as well.
Yeah, you're trying to take it in, and I think Blues fans were filtering off the pitch. The security were trying to get them off, and by the time that the medals came around, and obviously, you know, we got to lift the trophy, it was kind of letting it all sink in a little bit, looking round, and obviously the Blues fans were just jubilant, and then Rocking All Over the World came on. I remember that, got the crowd bouncing, and there was, you know, commentators on the pitch. I remember Ian Dancer on the pitch and interviewed me, and then obviously we all came down here and celebrated in front of the Blues fans. So yeah, little snippets sort of pop back into your head, but I think he was just trying to take it all in, you know, just the overwhelming emotion of everybody. You know, everyone I think was just drained by the end of the game emotionally, and we're just sort of rubbing their eyes to say, have we actually done it? Have we actually got promotion?
Now, Clark, to understand, we're sat in the area of the dressing room where you were based on match day, playoff final. Does this start bringing memories back of the celebrations? Did you take a little moment to yourself when you got back in here, or was it just fizz and loud music going everywhere?
Do you know what? The first thing I did when I came in was I got my phone and tried to ring my dad, because he was the one, obviously I wanted to speak to him first, and I knew he'd be sort of emotional and celebrating. So I remember going actually into the shower, the toilet area, to try and get some signal. So I think you see on the clips and stuff of the celebrations initially, when the champagne starts going and everything else, you see me coming sort of towards the end, because I was actually in there trying to get some signal, and I think I spoke to my dad briefly, but yeah, it's just been in here then, and it's just how you picture it, you know, champagne everywhere, and I think I was trying to cover my suit from getting sort of drenched, but yeah, I think it's just to say it was an overspill of emotion for a lot of the lads who had been sort of in this position, or not in this position, but had a playoff heartbreak sort of 4 or 5 years in a row. You could just see them sort of slumped and just taking in the moment. Michael Johnson and Grange and Benno, them three in particular, who had sort of suffered all the heartache, and then it was kind of, we've finally done it.
And you've got the match-worn shirt behind you from that very day, and you've also very kindly brought your medal along this afternoon. How does that feel to have that in your hands with the shirt and to be back in here? Is it a real flood of emotion now coming back? Yeah,
I think kind of, you know, it's been framed for a long time, so I've not actually seen it. It smells quite nice as well. I must have cleaned it. But yeah, just sort of seeing the medal, and it kind of just brings back the sort of achievement of what we had, you know, done that season. You know, we weren't fancied to go up. We were kind of mid-table, sort of middle of the season, and then we just went on a run that resulted in us obviously getting promotion. And I just feel sort of thankful that, because I'd witnessed it as a supporter all them years and suffered the heartache, but in the stands. And then, yeah, my first season actually playing, I was one of the lucky ones. I pretty much, you know, got promotion straight away. So yeah, very, you know, I feel very fortunate that, you know, I've got this to keep as a keepsake. Sort of my dad keeps coming round and asking if he can take it with him. So yeah, now it's out the frame, potentially might might give in for a little bit to learn.
I mean, you say you're one of the lucky ones, but certainly massively deserved. Can we just talk about the celebrations that will have ensued afterwards? You're a professional footballer and you've not long turned 18 and it's going into the summer now.
Yeah.
What were the next few days or nights like? I mean, was it a bit of a blur or?
And this is the God's honest truth, I'm not joking. I've never been a big drinker, so, but I think I was probably a little bit drunk on that night. I think we went back to the hotel for a little bit and then literally straight back to Birmingham. So, and then it was kind of, yeah, for the next week, there was a lot of sort of events that were put on for us, and we had the sort of open top bus and everything else. And it was kind of, yeah, it felt like it was a party for pretty much a week. And I remember sort of having a few days then where I could kind of just sit back and relax, and then went on holiday. Went on holiday with a few of the lads, and we just continued the celebrations really. And the weird thing was where we went on holiday, a couple of the Norwich lads were also there. So that, I don't know if we spoilt their holiday a little bit, but no, it was just a summer of don't want to say chaos, but partying, shall we say?
Yeah, well, just like any 18-year-old would enjoy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so very privileged to have started my career at that age, and then, as I say, have a moment like this in so young. Yeah, I was very lucky.
Well, Darren Carter, it's been an absolute pleasure to come back here with you and listen to your memories.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.